My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on tonight's show, I'm pleased to have on the SCC Commissioner, the Commish himself, Al Carbone. Al, it's great to be able to have you on.
Thanks, Christopher. Long time coming. I'm psyched. I finally got on here. You've had a lot of celebrities and prominent people in Connecticut high school sports, so I'm happy that I get to join the list. And happy Thanksgiving too.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I forgot to mention that it was Thanksgiving yesterday. I mean, I'm still recovering from my game I had yesterday between Naugatuck and Ansonia, which I just found out today will be doing their playoff game between Naugy and Massac. That'll be a home game for Naugatuck. So we SWC versus the NVL. I'm excited for that. I know some of your teams are in the playoff, one of them being Daniel Hand, who up until last week was out of the playoff, but with some help, they're back in. And I just know that you're uber excited to be able to watch some playoff football from the SCC.
Yeah, no, I think that's just well. First of all, I'm just so happy that we got to get through this season, right? People always ask me, like, what did you learn from COVID? I said, one, we could have played football in 2020. That's one. But I think two is that when we got through this year, I think the student athletes, the coaches, the athletic directors, even the media, I'm going to give you some credit too, deserve a lot of credit for embracing that. The sport of football gets a lot of attention. Each week it was exciting. And I thought, you were a little concerned about like the quality of play, early on. And I think it just got better and better over this time. So, to culminate, yesterday, in Thanksgiving, where teams were waiting until the end of the, how it should be, see who plays who and who beats who and seeding. And it shouldn't be a predetermined outcome. And it wasn't this year. Everybody had a, really fight and claw to that last whistle. It was exciting. I was at Hamden, Notre Dame, the Green Bowl. Hamden needed to win. He also needed some teams to help it, and along the way. And it was unbelievable. At the end of the game, Coach, Tom Dyer has done a great job, telling his kids, hey, St. Joe's beat Trumbull, we're in the playoffs. And just see the reaction of the kids and the fans that were around it. Like that's what high school sports is about. So, we're really lucky. And, and I think the playoffs are just a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of stuff and sacrifices that, kids, I say kids, had to deal with without a season in 2020. And I think it's going to be a real special couple of weeks.
I felt like over the course of the season, because I saw many, many games in the NVL, I felt like there were a lot of games that were surprises just because I remember week 2, Torrington, who is in the Class M playoff, is facing Granby Canton from the Pequot, beat Naugatuck. The only loss Naugatuck has is against an iron foe who also won the Iron Division. And, just seeing the development of Naugatuck, with the credit to Mafo, Lynch, and Coach Anderson in his first year, the development of Naugatuck over that course, and you spoke about the players getting better. And I just felt like over the course of the year, being able to follow different teams, not just in the NVL, but outside, the play got better. There were a lot of upsets early on, even over the course of the season, but early on, there were many, many upsets as well. And I remember when I was speaking to a lot of people just saying, hey, just picking their brain. Hey, who do you think is going to win Naugatuck Ansonia? Everybody told me Ansonia. I was the only person who said Naugatuck. And I said, you know what? Here's the reason why. This year has been really strange in a lot of ways. I've seen Ansonia quite a bit. They have some flaws. They're not as strong as what they were in the past. Naugy has the components. If a couple things go their way, they could surprise. Well, it just so happened, it exactly happened just like that. And that kind of puts together the whole thing of what you said. This season was so unique in a lot of ways. Nothing is a guarantee. Even the playoffs, you could go by the seedings. It doesn't matter. Play on the field. That tells you who's the better team that day.
Yeah, that's a great point. You saw, this year, over 40 teams were ranked in the polls during those 12 weeks. And I asked this question was it that there are a lot of good teams, or, teams that were, had a chance to be pretty good? Or is it that the media is dumb, and coaches are dumb. They don't know what teams are good. Like I could say that, and, I can throw enough darts as it is, but I say that's, facetiously. But the thing is that, yeah, teams lost. Yeah, a couple teams went, close to undefeated, but you're talking about like a 3-loss teams. God forbid 3-loss teams make the playoffs. No, Greenwich, Daniel Ham played really tough schedules. You're seeing 2-loss teams. It's okay to lose games. And there's a lot of things that have evolved over football scheduling, with the alliance and, the leagues and how we schedule. But that's okay. Like, I think you don't have to be perfect to make the playoffs. And I think you're seeing that this year was that year because, again, everyone started, they didn't know what to expect after a year away from the game. But those 12 weeks, you saw evolution. You saw kids, getting stronger, getting used to it, getting better. Kids, coaches didn't even, they were freshmen and now they're juniors. They've grown, they've evolved. And I think that was the interesting point about this. And you explain it, is that teams maybe you never thought about, maybe they put the work in and they were ready to go and they took advantage of those chances in week 1, week 2, week 3. And they're like, hey, we could be pretty good. That's the great thing about sports. It's all about momentum. It's about the team camaraderie. And so you have those special moments early in the season, that's going to catapult you. And so now you're in week 9, week 10, week 11. You're like, hey, guess what? We're in the mix. We're in the mix for playoffs. And that just has so many benefits from a school standpoint, atmosphere, crowds, kids, just enthusiasm. That's what's special about high school football, especially in this state. And we have to be honest, it's the sport that gets the most attention.
No, it does. I mean, it gets the most attention in college. It brings the most money. That's how a lot of programs, especially Division I, get their money. They get it from the gate, from football and recruitment and so on. And speaking of college football, I kind of want to correlate that to the playoffs because I feel like as a society, I mean, prime example, look what happened with Cincinnati. Cincinnati just got ranked in the top 4. They were undefeated, but because they didn't play anybody and they're out of the Power 5, they're not in the, the boys club and the Marriott club, whatever. They could not get in there. And then they finally did because things went their way. I feel like when we look at high school football here, if you have a loss or two, you're deemed terrible. Like you shouldn't be ranked anywhere. But we have to get away from that, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the NVL and there were a lot of very good teams that had 2, 3 losses, even some teams who had 4 who didn't make the playoffs. But if there were another couple weeks, they probably would have gotten in. But I just feel like we need to get away from, these are high school kids. These are not college kids. These are not pros. They are going to lose games. They're going to get better. Allow them the time to, just like what we saw this year, to maturate, to mature over the course and get better. We saw that. And I feel like if we can just do that as a group, we'll see a much more, I think, compelling product for everybody involved.
Yeah. And that's a great point. And it comes down to this is like, what we've done as leagues, and the SCC has been part of the Connecticut High School Football Alliance, with the SWC, the FCIAC's been a part of it, the CCC, we're trying to get the NVL part of it. I think they'll eventually come. I think I think what went on with Derby, at the end of the year, obviously there's some questions that they're going to have, whether they're going to be able to field a team and what the future. I said, but that's the interesting point, is because you want to be playing competitive games because you do want to get to that playoffs. And so maybe next year you don't have as much kind of leeway to grow because everybody has played. And so, playing competitive games and getting ready for that type of game that you're going to see in the playoffs, when we use Naugatuck and Massac as an example, here's Massac, right? Their 2 losses are to Notre Dame of West Haven and Daniel Hand of the SEC, because they play in the Alliance, but they had to go, and they had to beat New Fairfield, who's a playoff team in Class S, outstanding team, who almost beat Newtown. And then they had to go beat Newtown on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to earn that playoff berth. They had obviously the Thames River, Quinnebog game was an interesting one that, kind of enabled teams to, have some hope, but like you have to go out and you have to win those games. And so, playing competitive schedules get you ready for, the playoffs, and not to mention Naugatuck. They're playing Ansonia, a perennial, state championship caliber team. And that's going to get them ready for the playoffs and that mentality. And so, the Alliance has done that. It's evolving. The more leagues, there's going to be some tech schools probably playing some Alliance games. And it's not, we're not, and the one thing I think people lose sight of is we're not trying to exclude people, and we're not trying to make people bad. Some media people, force them. But again, I think as people understand is high school football scheduling is to the point is it's okay to lose games because you're going to get points from playing good teams. And that's something that, the 6 divisions, we're not taking away Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is going to be a part of this, the 10-game schedule. The playoffs aren't going to start earlier like they do in Massachusetts or New Jersey. We're playing it. Yeah, we have 6 divisions. But those 6 divisions, here's your opportunity to make those the best 6 divisions, equal 6 divisions, or however you want to do it, so that, at the end of the day, you crown 6 champions and they're champions. And, no one will ever, take away the state championships won by Ansonia, regardless of whether they're Class S. No one's ever going to deny that they won those, and deserve to win those, because they had to go and win those on the field. And a couple times they had to play 15 games back in, less than a decade ago. They played 15 games in the season. But the point is, though, is but if they're a state champion, they're a state champion. And I think someone made a comment and it bothered me, and it says, everyone gets a trophy. Football is the one sport where no, not everyone gets a trophy. In soccer, everyone gets a trophy. In basketball, everyone gets a trophy because they allow teams that, with less than 40% to make the playoffs, or they give a tie at the end. Football, you got to be close to perfect to make the playoffs. And, that's something that, is a high standard to reach. And, and I know in my league in the SCC, there are many times you have to look at a coach who's gone 7-3 and say, that's a fabulous season. And, we'll use Shelton as an example. 3 years ago, went 7-3, and their 3 losses were to a 9-1 Cheshire team, a 10-0 Hand team, and a 10-0 Newtown team. Combined record 29-1. But they went 7-3. Was that a good season? Yeah. And those 3 losses, they didn't get killed in those games. They lost by a touchdown or less. So, where is that happy medium? And so I think the 6 divisions is a good step in that direction. The power points, getting the points for your opponents, strength of schedule is a good thing. High school football scheduling is evolving, and, the league's working together, and, getting those matchups, it gets exciting. It makes it exciting because you only get 10 opportunities to play those games. It's not 20 games like in basketball, or baseball or softball. It's 10 games, once a week.
I think some people, and you mentioned the Connecticut Football Alliance. I'm glad that you mentioned it because I was going to segue into that next. I think a lot of people forget that the coaches are the ones that came out with this plan. These are coaches who are on the fields. They are the ones who have been around a lot longer than people who are watching in the stands. The coaches also probably know more than people in the stands, minus the former coaches who are just watching because they want to watch.
Right.
I'm sure they could coach probably better than.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, they could probably come back and coach whenever. But to get back on the topic, I just feel like looking at the whole landscape, when I saw the news come out about, even before the news with the 6 champions, when I saw about the Alliance, with the scheduling and being able to have the benefit of, if you go outside, you can get points either way, but you get double the points if you win. It gives you an incentive to have to schedule outside. And I know that there's a couple, I know the Tech League, I know you just mentioned, that's news to me, about potentially being able to have the Alliance. The NVL, to my knowledge, has not done that yet. I know the Pequot has not either. I hope maybe they can change that around sometime in the future. I know in the NVL, the last time that happened was Newtown against Ansonia. Ansonia lost to them. That was the last time there was ever a game out of conference. But I truly enjoy seeing teams go outside their league, going outside the conference, to be able to see who they can play and how they match up. And I think for you guys to give that incentive, and now you add the 6 champions, I can see the benefit with that. Because like you said, you may, with the 4 champions we have now in S, M, L, and double L, we keep out very good teams. Fitch is one. We talked about Sheehan
Shannon,
potentially
Class
Hand,
S. Yep.
yeah, Hand up until if Quinnipiac doesn't beat Thames River, we could be talking about Hand as well in that group. I
What
think,
about Wilton?
well, yeah,
Wilton,
exactly.
Class
Wilton
L.
too. Yep.
Trumbull, Norwalk, Trumbull, Norwalk, Staples, in the FCIAC and Class Double L, all
Mm.
outstanding teams. You got to the point, and here's the reality of it. You're a coach. If you're a coach, your job, it's a 12-month-a-year job, to motivate the kids to work out, to do the 7-on-7s, to get them excited about that, a 10-week season. And of course, every coach wants to have 10 victories on their schedule and give me the easiest schedule. That's a joke, but you want to have something to look forward to. This is now something that's evolving, and coaches can say, like, we have a chance. That's all you want to do is just remain positive and say, we have a chance to get better. We have a chance to play competitive games, and we have the chance to play. And I'll say this right now, on Tuesday night, there are going to be some teams who are getting on a bus for a period of time. They may have not had that type of bus ride. And I'm sure the coaches are concerned to saying, are we ready? Are they going to be able to, wake up, when they get off the bus and get ready and go 100% at, 6:30 when the kickoff starts? Or like, no, we've had a long road trip and we've learned how to deal with that, and we've, bonded from it. So there's many ways to look at it and see the positives, but there's also, obviously risks and negatives. You could lose games, you could, kids could get hurt, and, it's because there's two sides to every coin. But I think the point, and you explained it, is that, what, as high school sports evolves, kids have a lot of options now. They have a lot of conflicts. They have a lot of things that are, in their minds, and we need to keep high school sports the most important thing, in their minds, in their worlds, and just get the most out of it.
As the game evolves, and I think if we learned anything from COVID in 2020, I know COVID's still here, but as far as
Yeah.
during the prime of the pandemic, I think, and I even, I admit this too, I hate change, but I've started to come around to change. I think change is not a bad thing. Change is okay. And when things evolve, like what we're seeing with high school football here in the state of Connecticut, we have to, I think, and I know change is hard for a lot of people, but
Yep.
be willing to, instead of, and like I saw on Twitter, on social media, from people saying, I don't like what I saw as far as certain comments that were made, because I just felt
Right.
like at the end of the day, don't hate, have a discussion,
Right.
talk about it. Don't be so one-sided, like, oh, I don't like it, here's the hand, I don't want to hear it. Talking is okay.
When 88% of a group approves something, that's pretty significant. And even those who probably voted against it only did because they may not like change, or it doesn't benefit them, individually, or, they just, want it perfect. I've always been kind of gone through as commissioner, is saying, is like, one, we're going to try things, two, we can't be afraid to do stuff. Status quo is not part of my dictionary,
Mhm.
as a commissioner. And I think people would say that, but I also say is like, sometimes perfect, we can't, perfect is the enemy of good. So sometimes we think we have to have everything perfect. And what happens is that when we have something good, maybe that's good enough, and then we can improve it along the way. And I think that was something that I was disappointed with a lot of people's reaction was, oh, it's going to 6 divisions, it's everyone gets a trophy, or, you're not doing this. You don't notice the process. The process is a pretty interesting one with the football committee. There's a lot of smart people and influential people who are going to be talking about high school football. And I would say how the sport needs to evolve. And I'm very confident that those discussions are going to be made. If people don't trust that, then they're entitled to their opinion, and they could write their columns and, tweet what they want, but they're not at the table, and the people who are at the table, I know I've talked to several of them in the last couple of weeks. I'm actually very excited about the conversations that are going to be had. And in the last, 6 months, for 2 significant things to get changed, in football, with the strength of schedule points and then the 6 divisions, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good example of something to say. It's like, wow, that, maybe change, and it's not change, it's maybe improvement is coming, and there's the ability to talk about it. As you said, it's about a discussion. I'm confident that's going to happen, and I know it's going to happen because I'm confident in the people who are around that table who want to, have the discussion. I'll say this from the Alliance perspective. I would always consider myself it's a bad example, but kind of the lone wolf of the commissioners. I didn't know Dave Johnson from the SWC. I got to know him very well. Dave Schultz from the FCIAC and John Kutzko before him, he was the commissioner. I got to know them very well. And I realized after talking to them and learning from them and discussing, and just like the CCC and, Jimmy Bonacore from the ECC, like we had the same feelings and frustrations and challenges. And when we talk together, and this is where the Alliance works, is the collegiality between the leagues. Yeah, we're competitive and, we want what's best for our leagues, but we were running into the same issues, and scheduling and making sure that our teams, getting competitive games. And we were able to come up to the Alliance. No one thought the Alliance would ever work. Back, it was like 2013. And before that, we did a kind of schedule, as you referenced the SWC and MVL one. We did it with the FCIAC, and of course, I didn't get 100% participation in our league, and people were resistant, but it was great. And but what I learned from it was I can go and talk to other leagues because I need to know what's going on in other leagues and how they're doing things and what they look to, and we work together. And I think that's the collegiality and just learning from one another. In the end, we're all for kids, getting kids to play competitive athletic events. And there's a lot of people that benefit from it, from, parents, coaches, the kids, the school communities, the communities at large, the media. Everyone benefits from that when people are excited about coming and watching, football, especially on a Friday night.
100%. I agree with everything you said, man. And I just wish that we could just not we, because I could talk to you forever.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, as a society, I feel like a lot of times having, like, look, prime example. Nobody wanted to hear why I picked Naugatuck. It was nope, and Sony, that's it. Goodbye. Hello.
Right.
Goodbye. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. Now I look like the better person today. But that's neither here nor there. The point is,
you should have a sign behind you that says I picked Naugatuck, and it's with the check mark.
I should, because it's funny, because I told some people from Game Time, hey, Naugie's going to win this game. I have a feeling inside.
Yeah.
And just saying, that's all.
Yeah.
But,
well, again, just judging by all the experts that, for Game Time, and look at all their own, picks throughout the year, that could be another discussion item, but I won't, again, they're
I
all
wish
good
I could have been
there.
a part of those picks. That would have been awesome. I couldn't.
Right.
I wasn't on the committee this year to vote. Hopefully
Did you get a vote in their top 10 poll?
No,
Media poll. That's I'll be honest with you too. That's something that's got to change a little bit too, because they should make sure that there's people from every league who see teams in another league and do that. I always think polls, especially preseason polls, are ridiculous because you don't know. It's high school sports. It's not college where you have, spring practice and press conferences and, all this stuff. It's high school sports. You don't know, what happens from a year to year basis. But I think that's one thing that we could do a better job, and I know the media business is tough, but, when you only, if you cover one game, but you're not talking to all the coaches and stuff. And that's why, like, it balances the media poll with the coaches poll, because I think coaches watch a lot of games throughout the weekend and stuff like that, because they have the ability to, through the play things like Huddle and in these, video exchanges. But yeah, I think that's important. Like, again, you want credibility and being able to pick games. Like, you shouldn't be able to pick a high school game, but you should be able to say why you picked that game. And, and that gives you credibility because you're there every week and talking to people. And, again, we love covering the sport, but we should also, have to do the follow through and having those discussions. So, again, it's not college, but, it's high school sports, and, you never know what happens from a week to week basis. And I'll use an example, right? Shelton beats Greenwich, in week 3, and in week 4, they had to go to Trumbull, and Trumbull coming off a bye week, punched him in the mouth and beat him up because Shelton was banged up from playing a great game against Greenwich. Of course, that's not, in the Shelton, weekly press conference, the coach didn't say, hey, I'm missing, 2 of my linemen and my best running back. It's high school sports, it's kids, there's confidentiality, HIPAA laws that you can't talk about. Mm-hmm. But, why'd you lose to Trumbull? Well, Trumbull was better than us. And, that's a credit. So, those are the intricacies of, high school football and the things that people don't really assume they know about on a week to week basis and what really happens.
Al, I really do appreciate you coming on again. I could talk to you forever, and hopefully I could have you again sometime in the future, but it was great to be able to talk about, obviously all things football, but also the alliance, the scheduling, and, everything that came with that. And, I commend you. I know some of the coaches, not all of them. I know some that are part of the alliance as far as who really kind of helped bring this together. And I commend them, and they've done a fantastic job, as all coaches do in the state. And, I wish you and everybody, as far as continuing what you're doing, and, I support it, and in the beginning, I will admit, in the beginning, when I first got the news, I was like, I don't know. But then, see, that's the thing. I trying to get over the fact of not liking change. But then, instead of me tweeting and hating it, I talked. I reached out to every coach that I knew that I could talk to. I heard their perspective. I talked to you. I sat down and said, okay. And I just wrote down, and I said, you know what? And I kept coming back to what you said, the kids and everything that we just talked about for the last 30 plus minutes. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go with this idea. I'm going to go with it. And you know what? Let's see where it goes. And I've bought into it even more.
No, great. And I appreciate that. And, again, it's something that's going to just keep getting better and better. And, and as again, we can't always just think that we have to, change people. And I appreciate what you say is that, you go through it methodically. It's not a day-to-day, like, okay, now everyone has to come, or, if the NVL doesn't come in 2022, doesn't mean that. No, I want them to understand we've had great meetings with them because we've never had meetings with them, in sharing information. There's a trust factor in everything that we do. So I think that's important that you take that approach in all the leagues. And I think we're just going to keep sharing information and showing people. And it's not a, you're not with us. It can't be, as you said, we're a small state. We're all close, you walk before you run, and, and that's the approach that we've taken with this, and we share information and keep doing stuff. And I appreciate what you're doing, because that's great. You talk to a lot of people, throughout the state. That helps you, gives you credibility too. And I'm just happy that I finally got the opportunity to come on and chat with you. And I could talk for hours about this. That's kind of one of my bad traits or my good traits. So, passionate about it. So, but keep doing the great stuff. Enjoy the playoffs. I'm glad you get a chance on Tuesday night to enjoy what's probably going to be a really, really good game. Know the Mastic coach very well, Steve Christie. Runs a really great program. So that's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be a high octane offense against a very, very good defense in Naugatuck. So yes. I like to, we talk about who, like in football, good offense usually is trumped by a great defense. Well, right. Naugatuck is a great defense. Mastic is a great offense, which when they collide, what happens? Who knows? We'll find out on Tuesday.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great time of the year. And, again, appreciate everything that you're doing, and let me know how I can help you. And we'll see how it goes.
Definitely. Stay in touch, Al. Stay in touch.
Definitely. Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate it.
No problem. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm out journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.